Oh, hello, eighth graders. What up? Let's go over these chapter 11 questions, shall we? Caesar, you ready? Yes. Oh, good. You guys remember the War of 1812? Yeah, when the British blockaded our ports along the Atlantic coast, our biggest trade partner, nothing could get in and nothing could get out. We had to develop businesses ourselves and rely on our own industries to get the job done. And so manufacturing in our economy, it was actually a boost to it. So the War of 1812 kind of springboards us into this industrial revolution. Industrial revolution, it includes ideas like interchangeable parts. These, instead of it had to be a master or really skilled to do something, we started making items with interchangeable parts where unskilled workers could put them together real quick, meaning anyone could get hired at these factories. Now, these factories are owned by some fat cat like this guy right here. He's a capitalist. He puts up the money for the business. He buys the building for the factory, he buys the machines, he pays the workers, he pays for the supplies. But when the profits come in, the capitalist is the first one to get paid. He's the big boss man or boss lady that again puts up the money for this factory system. Now, factories, they're starting to sprout up around this time. People are leaving their house to go to work because that's where all these machines are, whatever it is they're making in their factory. And they're going to produce a lot of things at this factory. And again, any old worker could do. So this is life outside of the farm. The Lowell girls, I chose a raven. Ravens are one of the smartest creatures out there in the animal world. Did you know that? As far as birds go, birds are pretty smart, and ravens are one of the smartest birds. The Lowell girls, you're a farm girl living in the United States at the time. You want to get off of that farm, go work in this factory town. You'll have to work 8-10 hours a day, but in exchange for that, they'll give you room and board and education, make you smart. So that's why I chose a raven. Now, as more and more of these factories pop up, these factories are being built in cities. Jobs are not on the farm anymore. People are leaving the farm and coming to live in the city. It's the beginning of urbanization. People moving from farms to cities. The first few cities, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, that just blew up as far as population goes. It's not the greatest style of living. It's unclean. There's not a lot of clean drinking water. There's not a good sewage system. Poor air quality. Everything's on fire. So life is rough. Now, as far as this technology goes, we've talked about all this new technology several times this week in all the videos that you've been watching. Am I right? Right. Now, right around the same time of all this exciting stuff happening in America, we get a bunch of new Americans, mainly coming from Western Europe. If your ancestry came from one of these European countries, they might have come during the 1800s, early 1900s. And like most immigrants, they faced problems when they came to a new world. There were people that were living here before that didn't like them. They thought they were stealing jobs and bringing crime. So immigrants face discrimination. It's a rough go at the beginning for a lot of them. Cotton gin. It's that machine, that spike cylinder that removes seeds. It basically leads to a huge boom in slavery in the United States. Northern factories need the raw materials, the cotton from the fields for those factories up there. So by the end of 1860, there's 4 million slaves living in the United States to meet the demand of those factories. To control those large amounts of slaves, plantation owners formed these slave codes, basically these laws that slaves had to live by. If they violated any of these codes, usually it was a violent punishment in front of others to create that sense of fear and hostility, setting examples for others to see. But sometimes it didn't work. There were revolts and rebellions. Nat Turner led one of the biggest and most famous of slave revolts. It was eventually put down. Again, it was extreme violence by these plantation owners to try to keep their slaves in line. So slavery becomes a further problem in the United States. We'll come back to that in a second. Finally, as more and more people are moving out west, there needs to be a way to get out west. We start building the first roads in this country, turnpikes. You got to pay money to drive on it. It kind of pays to the road itself and the maintenance of it. And canals, basically man-made rivers to ship those farm goods and whatnot. The Erie Canal, an incredible achievement. Finally, the chapter ends with the Missouri Compromise, as we're looking to add more states into our country and keep the balance between free states and slave states, because neither side wants an advantage in Congress to make laws that could promote or detract from slavery. Missouri and Maine, we solved that problem by admitting both of them, one free and one slave. That kept the balance. Now it's 12 and 12. But they also drew a line on the southern border of Missouri and said, moving forward, anything north of this line, you can't have slavery. Anything south of that line, slavery is permitted. It also included a tough new fugitive slave law. The Missouri Compromise was one of the first attempts at trying to fix the slavery problem in the United States. But as we'll see and continue to study, it was one that failed in the attempt to solve that slavery issue. All right, Caesar. Yes? You didn't fall asleep, did you? No. Good. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.